No one expected an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in Eastonville where the oak trees outnumber stoplights, and black folks learn to smile just the right amount to become a turning point for the whole city. Latrice Thompson, 32, was the kind of woman who'd hand you her library card if you asked what she was reading. She was the neighborhood librarian, a lover of books, cats, and her husband Zeke, a former Marine who now ran a counseling center for veterans and proudly claimed his lasagna could beat Olive Garden's, though no one had confirmed this. That afternoon, Latrice had just finished her shift. One hand cradled her 8-month belly, the other held a bag of oranges like she was armed with vitamin C in a war against a heartless era. A breeze tugged gently at her maternity dress. Sunlight poured onto her freshly coconut-oiled curls. Everything was peaceful, the kind of peace easily shattered by the sound of a police siren. And then, like a movie, a white and blue patrol car turned the corner, as if justice had just arrived. 30 years late. Behind the wheel was Officer Kyle Donnerson, known in the neighborhood as the Breath Hunter, because he could treat a poorly timed inhale as probable cause. They said he had a police badge and a PhD in overreacting. At the West End barbershop, his name was usually mentioned somewhere between band and amen. And today, for reasons unknown or perhaps far too well known, Donnerson's gaze locked on Latrice. A black woman, walking, unafraid, and worst of all, exhaling with pride. It's not a crime written in any book of law, but it was written in the eyes of men like him. You see, some days don't need thunder to become fate. All it takes is a black woman on her way home and a system ready to stop her, just for existing. The police car screeched as if Donnerson was chasing a fugitive. But he wasn't. He was chasing a pregnant woman with a bag of oranges and an unapologetic gaze. Latrice froze. She didn't even have time to pull out her ID, something black folks carry like lifeblood, before hearing the shout, "Stop! You're loitering!" Loitering, that strange word people like Donnerson use for any black person who isn't running, isn't scared, and refuses to disappear. "Sir, I'm just walking home," Latrice replied softly. Not confrontational, because she knew the unwritten rule. Be as soft as dough or you'll be crushed like stone. But he didn't listen. Or more accurately, he didn't have to. "You're standing here suspiciously," Donnerson declared, his hand now hovering near his holster like he was negotiating with a lion, forgetting that this lion was 8 months pregnant and holding organic oranges from the farmer's market. "Could you ask me that more respectfully?" she said gently, eyes lowered, not out of fear but because she knew the price of eye contact when your skin isn't light enough. But respect wasn't on his list. History had taught him that people like Latrice should be grateful to be left alone and silent when harassed. And then, with no warning, like a nightmare without an alarm clock, he shoved her. Not hard, but just hard enough for a body carrying life to lose balance and drop all trust in the world. The bag of oranges hit the ground. A few rolled away as if they were scared, and then a kick to the belly, as gentle as if he were kicking a ball in the park. But that belly carried a dream, and now it curled up on the sidewalk. Latrice didn't scream. She wailed like even the wind had to stop and listen, like justice was somewhere nearby, but hadn't turned on location services. What should have been a quiet afternoon turned into breaking news, missing only the CNN logo and suspenseful theme music. Latrice lay there, on cracked pavement, one hand clutching her belly, orange juice mixing with blood into a strange hue. no paint company would dare copyright. A middle-aged woman screamed, "She's pregnant! She's pregnant! Oh, God! Someone call 911. A white teenager nearby, filming with his phone, muttered, "Holy sht! This is George Floyd, prenatal edition." People gathered. No one touched Latrice. Not because they didn't care, but because America had taught them that touching the truth can cost you your job, your life, or at least your social media account. And Donnerson? He walked back to his patrol car like he'd just neutralized a national threat. Face blank, like a future internal report that will read, "Subject was non-compliant." He got into the vehicle, unaware that 3 phones were live streaming to TikTok, Twitter, and a Facebook page called Justice for Just Existing. Minutes later, an ambulance siren wailed. Not out of Donnerson's mercy, but from the crowd's fear that if they didn't act, yet another hashtag would soon be born, followed by an angel emoji. Latrice was lifted onto a stretcher, face pale, belly throbbing, eyes barely open, but her lips kept repeating just 2 words: Reggie, baby, Reggie. Reggie, her husband, didn't yet know the phone was about to ring. Didn't yet know his life was about to split into 2 parts. Before the kick, and after. Reggie Reddington was busy taping a poster that read, "Breathe deep, you deserve to exist," on the door of his veteran counseling center when the phone rang. He never believed in omens, but something about that ring made his fingers tremble. "Mr. Reddington, this is City Central ER. Your wife, Latrice." The rest faded like late-night news you tune out until the anchor mentions an explosion. Only this time, the explosion was in his chest. He bolted to the car. No seatbelt, no respect for red lights. Years of Marine training in Iraq had taught him one thing: when the system hesitates, the good must act. At the hospital, he nearly broke down the emergency room doors. A startled nurse pointed him to room 206. He stepped in, and his heart shattered in a way no military manual ever prepared him for. Latrice lay there, lips pale, eyes half open, belly swollen in ways it shouldn't be. They kicked me, Reggie," she whispered. "It was someone in uniform." And that was when Reggie Reddington stopped being the dedicated veteran. Stopped being the gentleman who led meditation sessions for PTSD soldiers. Stopped folding napkins precisely at dinner. From that moment, he became a storm one that the very system had raised. And then forgotten. He held his wife's hand and nodded quietly. "Don't worry, baby. I'm not waiting for justice anymore. I'm going to find it." And down the hospital corridor, Reggie didn't walk. He advanced, St. Augustine Hospital, a place where people come to heal, or wait to die, received a special patient that night. Latrice Reddington, 32 years old, 34 weeks pregnant, victim of an unplanned external impact by law enforcement. And if that phrase sounds shady, it's because it was copy-pasted straight from the police department's internal report. Waiting room number 2. Reggie Latrice's husband, former Marine, now head of a veteran support center, stood like a statue in that too-bright room, feeling like he'd been dropped into a nightmare powered by LED lights. When the doctor stepped out, face stern like a lawyer delivering a verdict, Reggie knew something was wrong. "We're monitoring signs of placental abruption. The baby's heart rate is still stable, but we need to keep her under observation for the next 24 hours. Reggie said nothing. He simply looked down at his hand, still stained with the orange juice spilled from the torn paper bag Latrice had been holding when she fell. Then Latrice was wheeled into the room, her face bruised, her lips bloodied, one hand resting on her belly like it was the last shield between her and the world. "Reggie." Her voice was as faint as an old furnace's last breath. "He kicked me." Reggie didn't break down, didn't scream, didn't punch a wall like in some cheap action flick. He just nodded, took her hand, and said, "I'm here, and I remember everything." But inside, Reggie was already planning. Not some back-alley revenge fantasy, but the kind of revenge that comes with charts, PowerPoint slides, and a civil rights attorney on speed dial. "I'm not letting him get away with this. Just don't do anything reckless. Reckless is letting him keep that uniform." So while Latrice was hooked up to monitors, receiving IVs and drifting into sleep, Reggie unlocked his phone, opened the clip, and launched a war Wilmington wasn't ready for. The video, 43 seconds long, filmed on a cracked corner iPhone 7, started circulating at 7:14 p.m. No effects, no filters, no TikTok soundtrack rights needed. Just Latrice's scream echoing off pavement, and the savage kick from a white officer in a worn-out bulletproof vest, his beard looking like it had been shaved with a hammer. A short, gut-punching title. "Cop kicks pregnant woman like he's playing Madden. Who gave him the green light?" In 30 minutes, it had 10,000 shares. In 2 hours, 300,000 views. By midnight, all of Twitter, X, per Elon Musk, was calling out one name: Latrice Reddington. News outlets began circling like hawks. CNN, Wilmington officer accused of assaulting pregnant woman in broad daylight. We just watched Emmett Till live-streamed. Fox News, the woman appeared uncooperative? As always, Fox tried to defend white authority like it was a biological function. Meanwhile, Reggie sat in the hospital waiting room, holding a cup of coffee colder than any police department apology, eyes locked on the video. He watched it over and over, not because he didn't believe it, but because he wanted to memorize every frame, every sound, every averted gaze from passers-by. The bowed head of a society too used to injustice. Then Reggie opened his contacts. One name glowed: Tyrese Holloway, civil rights attorney, and the only man to sue a police department and still have all his teeth. "I need you. Talk to me. An officer kicked my wife. She's pregnant. I'm already printing the T-shirts. I'm on my way." Reggie's phone cast a cold blue glow across the hospital room. He wasn't scrolling. He was studying. Not your average Google detective. He re-examined the angles, analyzed the lighting, assessed the crowd reactions like he was prepping a Netflix docuseries, and then, in true 2025 fashion, the 41-second clip showing Officer Terry Slayton kicking a pregnant woman on the street appeared on TikTok, Facebook, and in niche groups with names like Justice and Fried Chicken. In just 4 hours, the clip racked up 800,000 views, alongside countless comments like, "Can't believe this is America in 2025. Wait, actually, I can. Who needs law and order when real life is 3 times wilder?" And one comment from a grandma with an orchid avatar stood out. That boy must have slipped and hit his head on his conscience as a child. Outside St. Augustine Hospital, something else was beginning to grow. Not flowers, not hope. Candles. 1, then 5, then 30. Then came a full choir of mothers from the Baptist church, gathering one by one to light candles, whispering their shared truth like a prayer. That girl could have been my granddaughter, could have been me, could have been all of us 30 years ago. And Reggie, watching from the third-floor window, looked down at the crowd. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He simply pressed send on a message to Marcus Fields, an old friend, now a civil rights attorney making waves on MSNBC. Need you. Civil rights case. It's not small. And the whole country's watching. Marcus replied in 11 seconds. Send me everything. And don't let them bury this. Especially the ones in blue. That night, Reggie stood by Latrice's hospital bed, holding her hand. Outside, candlelight flickered on the glass. Inside, his eyes burned like the whole sky was ready to collapse. Don't worry, baby. Today, they kicked the wrong person. The next morning, Reggie walked into the Fields & Fields law office, the kind of place cops with dirty records avoided like chicken pox. Marcus Fields, a former vet turned civil rights lawyer, known for wearing suits with sneakers, was perched on his desk, holding a coffee mug that read, "Don't tell me to calm down. I'm a lawyer, not a yoga instructor." Reggie opened his briefcase and laid out internal file photos showing Officer Terry Slayton had 3 prior complaints, 2 for excessive force against black women, 1 for yelling at an 87-year-old man, for walking too slow. The unedited footage, printed witness statements highlighted in neon. She didn't do anything. She was just pregnant and carrying a bag of oranges. Marcus nodded slowly. All right, we're not going through the front door. We're climbing straight to the damn roof. Meaning media, legal, courtroom, and yeah, TikTok. That afternoon, Reggie stood behind a makeshift podium outside the hospital. Beside him, Marcus Fields and attorney Carla Jennings, the Jamaican powerhouse who once helped dissolve an entire Texas police department in just 3 trials. Cameras aimed, mics lit. Reggie's voice was low, steady, not a tremor in sight. My name is Reggie Whitmore. The woman you saw kicked yesterday is Latrice, my wife. She's carrying our first child, and the only thing she did wrong was walking calmly with the wrong shade of skin. The crowd fell silent. We don't want apologies. We don't want payouts. We want the truth. And a badge should never rank higher than a mother's life. Carla stepped up, voice clear and cutting. We're suing for excessive force, for civil rights violations, because kicking a pregnant woman isn't standard procedure, it's a crime. And we have the tape. Within 2 hours, the video of Reggie's speech hit social media with the caption, "The kicker gets paid. The kicked lies in a hospital bed. Welcome to justice in America." Justice for Latrice broke into the top 5 trending hashtags. Reggie, the once silent veteran, had become the face of a fury that would stay silent no more. Monday morning. Inside a private conference room at Greenville City Hall, the city's power players sat around a long table. Mayor Martha Beckett, with the reflexes of a circus acrobat when dodging questions. Police Chief Don Harwood, holder of 3 PhDs and 1 in passing the buck to civilian oversight. 2 city attorneys, fresh out of the seminar titled How to Say Sorry Without Admitting Guilt. Before them sat a thick, double-sided, unstapled file labeled Official Complaint, the Latrice Whitmore Case. Filed by attorneys Carla Jennings and Marcus Fields. Mayor Beckett tapped her nails on the table. Folks, we need to handle this delicately, quietly, internally, okay? You mean sweep it under the rug? Harwood asked, half joking, half not. City Attorney Nwandur One cleared his throat. We suggest a press release. We are taking this matter seriously. Officer Slayton is under internal review and has been placed on paid administrative leave. Paid leave. America's way of saying, take a vacation, hit the golf course. will calm the public down. But Greenville wasn't quiet anymore, because Reggie had learned to use Twitter and LinkedIn. Moments after the press release went live, Reggie reposted it with the caption, "I kick your pregnant wife, I get paid vacation." Sounds more like dark comedy than justice. He tagged it, "Paid to kick pregnant women." That night, in the town square, 400 people showed up. Not to chant, not to riot. They stood silently, each holding an ultrasound photo. Not of Latrice's baby, their own. A black woman with her hair wrapped in a tall bun stepped up to speak. "My daughter asked me, 'Mama, if I get pregnant one day, will I be safe?' And I didn't really know what to say. So tonight, I'm here to tell this city. That question should never have to be asked." The local news station, usually reserved for stories about lost dogs and BBQ fundraisers, opened the evening broadcast with "Outrage in Greenville." Officials accused of handling the case like spam mail. Reggie and Carla held a second press conference. This time they brought a whiteboard and a marker. On the board, in bold letters, "Kicked a pregnant white woman. Outcome, left blank. Kicked a pregnant black woman. Outcome, paid leave. Free boba." Reporters gasped. Social media captioned it, "Justice served cold. Like your response." That night, Reggie received an anonymous message. "Watch yourself, Whitmore. We have ways to make you quiet." He didn't reply. He took a screenshot and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "I've been in Fallujah. You think an anonymous message scares me?" One rainy Monday morning, Greenville County Courthouse was packed. Not for traffic fines, but because, today, Officer Darren Slayton, the hero who kicked a pregnant woman in the stomach, was going to court. Latrice sat in the front row. Next to her, Reggie in a black suit, clean-shaven, still holding a bag of oranges. A silent reminder. The last time she carried oranges, she was kicked in the stomach. On the judge's bench sat Carla Jennings, not as an attorney this time, but as a federal judge, appointed after a wave of public pressure. And today, Carla wasn't wearing robes to hide a smirk. Today, Carla was serious and dangerous. The prosecutor opened with the video. The courtroom fell dead silent, like they were watching a horror film. Except this one needed no special effects. No soundtrack, just a kick, a scream, and the smug smile of a man in uniform. Slayton's defense attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client felt threatened." Carla cut him off. "By a pregnant woman holding oranges, 5'1" tall." The attorney fell silent. Latrice was called to testify. She stood, no longer pregnant, the baby now asleep in the arms of a friend. Her voice was low but steady. "I just wanted to go home. I wasn't loud. I didn't resist. I was just pregnant." He looked at me like I didn't belong there. And then he kicked me. The courtroom stayed silent. Even Slayton looked down, not out of remorse, but because the camera was zooming in on his face. The verdict was read at 3:17 p.m. The court finds Darren Slayton guilty of aggravated assault, abuse of authority, endangering an unborn child, and gross misconduct unbecoming of law enforcement. Sentence: 6 years in prison, no parole. Permanent disbarment from police service. No one clapped. They didn't need to. Justice doesn't need applause. Justice needs witnesses. And that day, the first witness was the baby, sleeping peacefully in his parents' arms. His name was Justice Whitmore. After the trial, Reggie gave a statement. They told me not to make a big deal. I said, "You kicked my wife, not spilled coffee." I don't want revenge. I want the system to stop treating black women like walking targets. A reporter asked, "What will you do next?" Reggie smiled. "Raise my son. And start an organization named Justice." 3 months later, the Justice Fund was born, a nonprofit providing legal aid for victims of police violence. Every case file came with a small sticker. Justice was born from this. And Latrice? She toured across the country, speaking on maternal safety in black communities. Each word from her was a kick back at the system, not one that bruises bodies, but one that shakes the ground beneath institutions. And on Justice's first birthday, a small ceremony was held in Greenville's Central Park. Reggie held his son, standing at a microphone. "I don't want this boy to grow up a warrior. I want him to grow up never needing to learn how not to be misunderstood for his skin. And if anyone asks me what justice looks like, I'll point at him and say, that's his name." The end. Or maybe just the beginning. Because justice isn't a destination. It's a journey. It's a baby sleeping safely in his mother's arms. It's a father who once stood in the heart of a city and said, "I'm not rebelling, I just won't bow anymore."